Hi, and welcome to West Vancouver, Ambleside Beach. I'm Laurie Pawlik-Kienlen, author of Growing Forward, When You Can't Go Back. I'm going to read excerpts of chapter 5, starting fresh with Ruth. And I wrote this book by weaving pieces of my story in with stories of biblical women, along with blossom tips to help the reader grow forward when they can't go back. So in this series of author readings, I'm just sharing excerpts of my story, Homesick. When I moved to Africa, I expected to eat goat stew and chapati, hear Swahili, see giraffe and gazelle grazing on the roadside, and slosh through torrential rainy seasons. I was even prepared to track lions and tigers on safari, but I wasn't prepared to live amongst giant flying termites with voracious appetites and endless life cycles, baboons breaking in and stealing cookies and cereal from kitchen cupboards, dangerous carjackings and kidnappings at lunch, or fat avocados and mangoes falling off trees with juicy thuds. I taught middle and high school for 3 years at Rosslyn Academy, an American school in Nairobi, Kenya. My students, the children of missionaries and expatriates from all over the world, were adept at adapting to new cultures. Many had lived in several countries before they landed in my classroom. Most could drink the tap water because their bodies had developed a tolerance to foreign parasites and bacteria. These kids quickly picked up new languages because their minds were agile and they felt at home anywhere because they'd been everywhere. My students also knew how to handle a steady stream of believers from all over the world. Christians came for short and long-term mission trips, leaving after a week, a month, 6 months. This was hard on me. I struggled with the constant hellos and goodbyes. Every person I met took a little piece of my heart home with them when they left. God planted me in Africa, but I didn't flourish there. 3 closed doors had to swing open before I could move to Africa. First, I needed to find a job at a Christian school that actually paid its teachers, as opposed to teachers raising their own money like many missionaries do. So I prayed, Heavenly Father, if it's your will that I teach in Africa, please give me a paying position. I can't picture myself raising money. I'm not rooted in a home church or a spiritual community. I have nobody to lean on. Please help me financially. Second, I was still studying to be a teacher. I was finishing the last 3 courses of my education degree at the University of Alberta, and I needed special permission from my profs. I would have to take my final exams early to be in Africa for the first day of school. 2 instructors immediately granted permission. The third refused. He said I'd missed too much coursework. Plus, he had an ethical problem with the new teacher not completing her full course load before teaching. Eventually, after I prayed and petitioned and persevered, he permitted. Third, my only option in Africa, which was Rosslyn Academy, refused to hire me. That door slammed shut. Their policy was to hire teachers with at least 1 year of experience. Plus, their positions were filled for the upcoming year. Woe was me for a month, until out of the blue they requested a phone interview. The 8th grade teacher they had hired changed her mind about taking the position, leaving an unexpected opening. And so, to Africa I moved. I was always proud of being strong and independent because I did everything alone. I survived foster homes. I set myself up in an apartment when I was 17. I finished high school. I made my own money. I bought a car. I paid my bills. I earned university degrees, and I moved to Africa. I congratulated myself for not needing anyone, not even God. I went my own way because I didn't want God to tell me what to do. I wasn't bitter, nor did I think God brought misfortune on me. I just didn't think He cared. Writing this chapter helped me see how God shows His love and power through relationships, even formal and professional ones. For example, look how many people were involved in my move to Africa. Finding the teaching job required the internet, which was created by people I'll never meet. Getting my education degree required professors, university administration, and schools to train and mentor me. Working in Africa involved Roslyn's administration, support staff, parents, and students. I can't even count all the people involved in my physical relocation to Africa. I was never alone. I just thought I was alone. Sweating it out. That reminds me of what I'm doing here. The birds are so loud behind me. The sun is starting to come over the next condo. And I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but we will persevere. When my application to teach at Rosslyn Academy was first rejected, I was a little relieved. Relocating to Africa would be a hassle. I had a cat, a car, roommates, not to mention doubts. What if committing to a 3-year contract in an unpredictable third world country as a single woman was a mistake? At the time, Kenya was politically, socially, and economically unstable. Nairobi was one of the most dangerous cities in the world, home to the highest rates of violent crime, property theft, carjackings, and vigilante justice for lawbreakers. It was a risky place to live. But then came regret. I couldn't shake my yearning to go, explore, take a leap of faith. I kept searching for teaching jobs, but I couldn't find a Christian school that offered a paid position. I couldn't afford to volunteer, and I didn't want to raise my own financial support. The longer the African door stayed closed, the more I wanted it to open. Time was running out. Positions for the upcoming school year were quickly being filled, both overseas and locally. I needed to find a job. I lived with the school's rejection for a month, wondering the whole time if teaching missionaries' kids overseas was really what I wanted. It was. Continuing to search for jobs in Africa and Europe, unsuccessfully, and praying that God would open the right door. Then the phone rang. The 8th grade teacher Rosslyn had hired changed her mind, and I was up for an interview. Immediately, I knew I was moving to Africa. I'd had a month to sweat it out, and I used that time to pray and reflect. Without that season of waiting, I always would have wondered if going to Africa was a mistake. Living in Kenya was both the best and the worst time of my whole life. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done and the richest experience I ever had. Teaching a class of boisterous 13-year-olds in an unpredictable and sometimes violent country was difficult, even though the students were well-behaved, bright, and motivated. I felt overwhelmed and exhausted most of the time. I made so many mistakes. I wasn't the teacher I wanted to be. But despite my shortcomings, God was at work. Recently, I received this email. Dear Miss Pawlik, my name is Nick. I was one of your students at Rosslyn. Long story short, my wife and I found some old keepsakes from Africa. One was the language arts journal I wrote in while I was in your class. It was awesome. We spent the morning reading old entries and laughing about how sassy and ridiculous I was. Of note, I couldn't stop writing about airplanes and becoming a pilot. It turns out that I did become a pilot. I'm flying the MV-22 Osprey for the Marine Corps and completed 2 deployments. You taught me to write better, and that opened up numerous doors, including the U.S. Naval Academy and living my childhood dream as a pilot. Thank you for investing in my life. I felt like I was a mess in Africa, yet God used me. I showed up with my fragile little offering, and He created something of value that still echoes today. Thanks for sticking it out through chapter 5 with me and through the seagulls and the sun. Take good care of yourself because you are worth taking good care of. See you in chapter 6. Mwah.